The galaxy had seen many wars, but none as brutal as the one between the Frostborn Empire and the United Human Worlds. For 30 long years, planets burned and millions died. Everyone believed there was no end. Until something happened that no one ever expected. A marriage. Not just any marriage. A marriage between a human soldier and a Frostborn princess. And this is where our story begins. Her name was Princess Serena of the Frostborn, a blue-skinned royal born from the cold stars. Her people believed emotions made a leader weak, but Serena was different. She felt everything deeply. Fear, hope, sadness, and the desire for peace. His name was Commander Kale Rylan, the most stubborn, reckless, impossible human warrior the galaxy had ever seen. His scars were legends. His victories were whispered like myths. And yet under all that strength, Kale carried a heart that wanted only one thing. To stop the killing. When both sides reached the edge of total extinction, their leaders created an agreement. One marriage, one union, would seal peace forever. Serena accepted. Kale accepted. But neither truly knew what they were stepping into. The day Kale arrived at the Frostborn Citadel, the entire palace froze into silence. Even the air felt colder. Frostborn soldiers stood like statues, watching him as if he were a wild beast. They expected Serena to feel fear. But when she saw him, she felt something else. A heartbeat. A spark. A strange warmth she had never known. Kale bowed to her. Not like a soldier, not like a king, but like a man who respected her soul. That moment changed everything. Their wedding was not a celebration. It was a negotiation. Two worlds watching, praying, fearing. As the vows were spoken, Serena sensed something dark in the halls. Something waiting. The Frostborn air shifted. Even Kale's instincts sharpened. Something was wrong. Moments after the ceremony ended, Serena's advisor, Lord Vale, whispered to her. Your marriage brought peace, princess. But peace creates enemies too. Serena didn't fully understand, until she heard the first explosion. Boom! The citadel shook. Blue shards of ice fell from the ceiling like broken stars. Frostborn guards rushed into the hall. Kale grabbed Serena by the arm and pulled her behind him, his eyes blazing green with battle instinct. Get behind me, he growled. His voice held no fear, only readiness. Another explosion ripped through the chamber. An assassination attempt, on the first day of peace. Dozens of masked warriors stormed inside. They were Frostborn, but twisted, their armor marked by the symbol of the Cold Rebellion. A secret group that believed the marriage was betrayal. Kale had no weapon. He wasn't wearing battle armor. He wasn't even supposed to fight. But he still stepped forward. The rebels attacked. Kale moved like a storm. A punch broke one mask. A kick sent another sliding across the ice floor. He grabbed a fallen spear and spun it with deadly precision. Serena had seen warriors before. She had seen Frostborn champions, masters of cold warfare. But she had never seen a human fight like this. Not with rage. Not with desperation. But with purpose. With fire. One rebel screamed. The human must die. Kill him. Kale didn't flinch. He blocked the blade aimed at Serena's throat, twisted the attacker's wrist, and sent him crashing into a pillar. You're not touching her, he said, his voice low and dangerous. For a moment, Serena could only stare. This man, her new husband, was fighting harder for her safety than her own guards. But the rebels were many. Too many. They surrounded Kale in a circle, weapons drawn, moving in slowly, ready to strike him down by sheer numbers. Serena stepped forward. Her hands glowed with cold power. She had trained all her life, but she had never used her abilities on her own people. Kale looked back at her, breathing hard. Serena, stay back. No, she whispered. This is my duty too. The chamber lights flickered. Frost crystals lifted from the ground like floating blades. The rebels hesitated. Just enough. Kale launched forward. Serena unleashed a burst of frost energy. The two fought back to back, human fire and Frostborn ice merging into something unstoppable. Within minutes, the rebels fell one by one. The room finally fell silent. Kale turned to Serena, blood dripping from his knuckles, breath heavy. You okay? He asked softly. Serena nodded. But her heart raced. She had never seen such strength. Never seen such devotion. Never seen a human fight with the fury of a war god. And she realized something terrifying. Their marriage had ended one war. But it had also started a new one. Someone wanted them dead. Someone powerful. Someone willing to burn everything to stop the alliance. And this was only the beginning. The palace healers rushed into the shattered hall, but Kale pushed them away. He wasn't. Kale wiped blood from his jaw. Then they'll keep coming. Yes, Serena said quietly. Until one of us is dead. Guards escorted them through the palace corridors, past giant walls of glowing ice. But Kale noticed something strange. The soldiers looked nervous, glancing at him with suspicion, and at Serena with doubt. He leaned close and whispered, "Your guards don't trust this piece, do they?" Serena shook her head. Many Frostborn do not trust humans. They've only seen humans as enemies. Kale exhaled. And now I'm the man who married their princess. Yes, she whispered. And the one who fought like a monster in front of them. Kale smirked. Monster? Really? Serena's lips curved just a little. A good monster, she whispered. As they entered the secure council chamber, holographic screens lit up with reports. Explosions. Riots. Attacks across Frostborn cities. The cold rebellion wasn't small. They were everywhere. Serena listened to the reports, her hands trembling. Kale stood beside her, watching her silently. He could feel the weight crushing her. The pressure of being a princess, a leader, a wife, and now a target. Suddenly a transmission flashed. A Frostborn rebel commander appeared on the screen. His voice cold and sharp like cracking ice. "Princess Serena," he said, "your marriage has doomed our people. Return the human to his world, or we will freeze your kingdom from the inside." Kale stepped forward. "Why don't you say that to my face?" The rebel laughed. "Human, you are nothing. A warm-blooded animal pretending to be a warrior." Kale's eyes hardened. Serena moved closer to him, feeling his anger build like a rising storm. The rebel commander leaned in. "Your presence insults our bloodline. But do not worry, we will remove you soon." The transmission cut. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Kale spoke softly, but with fire. "They want war. I can give them war." Serena touched his arm. "No. That is exactly what they want. If you fight them alone you will die." Kale gave a small, confident smile. "You saw what I can do." "Yes," she whispered. "And that is why they will send someone worse." Lord Vale suddenly slammed a datapad onto the table. "Princess," he said, "we found something." On the screen, schematics of the palace glowed. A map of hidden tunnels, open gates, disabled shields. Someone inside the palace helped the rebels. A traitor. Serena's heart tightened. This was no small attack. It was a message. A warning. And a promise of something much darker. Kale studied the map. They knew where we would be. They knew the timing. They knew everything. Serena looked at him, her voice shaking. "Someone close to me, someone I trust, wants you dead." Kale stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Then I won't leave your side." Serena felt a strange warmth in her chest. She didn't want him to leave. She didn't want to face this alone. Outside the chamber, thunder echoed through the frozen sky. The Frostborn weather never changed, unless someone was using forbidden power. Serena recognized it instantly. "No," she whispered. "This can't be." Kale grabbed her hand. "What is it?" She looked toward the sky, fear filling her eyes. "The rebellion is calling their champion." Kale raised an eyebrow. "Champion?" Serena swallowed hard. "A Frostborn born with ancient power. A warrior stronger than any general. A fighter trained to kill human soldiers, especially you." Kale simply smirked. "Good. Let him come." The storm roared louder, as if answering his challenge. The storm outside the citadel grew darker, spinning like a living beast. Kale watched the sky through the tall ice windows. Serena stood beside him, her hands tight, her breath unsteady. She knew what that storm meant. The Frostborn champion was not a rumor. He was real. And he was coming for the human she just married. Kale broke the silence first. "So this champion. What's his name?" Serena hesitated before whispering, "Ryder." The name alone made the guards nearby stiffen. He was trained since childhood, she continued softly, to fight humans. To kill humans. He believes humans are a threat to the galaxy. Kale only shrugged. Then he's going to be disappointed. Moments later, the palace doors thundered open. A blast of freezing wind shot down the corridor, making every torch flicker. Frost crawled over the floor like living snow. Then a tall, armored figure stepped inside, blue skin, white eyes, and a cold aura that seemed to crush the air around him. Ryder had arrived. Every Frostborn soldier bowed. Serena didn't. She lifted her chin, forcing strength into her voice. Ryder, you were not summoned. Ryder ignored her completely. His gaze went straight to Kale, scanning him like prey. So this is the human, he said, voice deep and sharp. This is the one they claim fought a dozen rebels alone? Kale stepped forward, not intimidated. You want to test the story yourself? Ryder's lips curled in a thin smile. I plan to do more than that. Lord Vale rushed between them. This is a royal hall. There will be no fighting. Ryder flicked his hand, and Vale froze instantly, trapped in a crystal block of ice. The guards panicked, but Ryder didn't even look at them. His eyes stayed locked on Kale. Serena stepped between the two warriors. Stop. This marriage is for peace. Killing him will destroy everything we built. Ryder leaned close enough for her to feel his icy breath. You built nothing. You let a human corrupt your throne. He pointed at Kale. This man is the first crack in our empire. Kale crossed his arms. Funny, because your rebels attacked your princess today. Looks like the crack is inside your own house, not me. Ryder's expression darkened. A sudden tremor shook the palace. Another explosion. More rebels. The alarms blared, echoing through every corridor. Ryder turned away from Serena and Kale, his voice like a command carved from stone. The cold rebellion grows. Join me, princess. Reject the human, and we can still save our people. Serena looked at Kale. Then she looked at Ryder. For the first time, she felt the weight of two worlds pulling her apart. Kale stepped up beside her, voice calm but firm. She's not choosing you. Or me. She's choosing peace. Something you've never understood. Ryder's eyes glowed with cold fury. Then you have chosen your fate, human. Serena grabbed Kale's arm as Ryder turned away. He will challenge you, she whispered. He will try to kill you in front of everyone. And if he wins, the alliance ends. Kale squeezed her hand. Then I just have to make sure he doesn't win. Outside, the storm intensified, ice cracking, wind screaming through the sky. Ryder walked into the blizzard as if the storm bowed to him. Kale and Serena watched him disappear into the snow. The champion was preparing for war. And Kale would have to face him soon. That night, the citadel felt different. Quiet, tense, like the whole palace was holding its breath. Serena could not sleep. She kept replaying the attack, the storm, Ryder's arrival, and Kale standing against him without fear. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kale bleeding in that hall, and it made her chest tighten. Kale, meanwhile, stood on the training balcony alone. The icy wind hit his skin like knives, but he didn't move. He watched the storm clouds swirl above the Frostborn mountains. He knew what was coming. Ryder wanted a public duel. A fight to prove humans were weak. A fight meant to humiliate him. Or kill him. Kale stretched his bruised arm. Pain sparked through his muscles. He ignored it. Pain was familiar. Pain kept him sharp. But this time felt different. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for Serena, for peace, for the future of two races who hated each other. Serena appeared behind him, wrapped in a long frost-blue cloak. You should be resting, she said. Kale turned slightly. Could say the same to you. She came closer, her breath forming a small cloud in the cold air. Ryder won't fight fair. He will use ancient Frostborn power. You've never faced that before. Kale leaned on the railing. I've fought things worse than power. Serena studied his scars, the old battles written on his skin. Why aren't you afraid? Kale met her eyes. Because fear won't save us. Strength will. Her heart beat faster at those words. She wasn't sure if it was fear, or something else. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the palace again. Guards ran across the balcony. Rebels. East Courtyard. They're breaking the shields. Kale and Serena hurried down the stairs. The courtyard flashed with blue light. Ice explosions shook the ground. Shadowy rebels climbed the walls like ghosts. Kale grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. Serena lifted her hands, cold energy swirling around her fingers. She was powerful, but she was also new to real battle. Before she could fire, a rebel leaped at her. Kale moved faster. He slammed into the attacker and knocked him to the ground. Serena froze another rebel. Kale spun the blade in his hand, taking down 3 more. The courtyard became a blur of frost and fire. But then, everything stopped. A massive crack echoed through the air. Ryder landed in the courtyard like a falling comet, ice exploding beneath his boots. The rebels instantly dropped to their knees. Ryder pointed his spear at Kale. Enough hiding behind my princess. Fight me, human. Kale wiped frost from his face. This isn't the time. Ryder's voice boomed. The duel is tomorrow at dawn. You will face me in the arena of ice. If you refuse, your marriage ends and the alliance falls. Serena stepped between them. Ryder, you cannot force this. Ryder's cold eyes narrowed. I am not forcing anything. I am protecting our people from a mistake. He looked at Kale with pure hatred. One duel. One victor. One truth. Kale didn't hesitate. I accept. Serena grabbed his arm. Kale, no. But he gently pulled her hand away. If I run from this, your people will never trust mine. This is the only way. Ryder smiled, a cruel, satisfied smile, and turned away with the rebels following him into the snow. The moment he disappeared, Serena faced Kale with anger mixed with fear. You can't win against him. He isn't normal. He was trained to destroy humans like you. Kale stepped closer, his voice calm. Maybe. But he's not fighting a normal human. Serena looked at him, confused. Then what are you? Kale's eyes burned with quiet fire. Someone who refuses to break. A cold wind swept between them as the storm thickened above the mountains. Dawn was only hours away. And it would bring a duel that could save the galaxy. Or end Kale's life. Dawn arrived slowly, like the sun was afraid to rise. The arena of ice stood at the center of a frozen valley. An ancient battleground where frostborn warriors once proved their strength. Today it held a different purpose. Today, a human would stand inside it. Kale walked toward the arena with Serena beside him. Frostborn citizens lined the path, whispering and staring. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid. Most looked like they already believed Kale would die. Serena felt their fear twisting into something darker. Doubt, anger, hatred. It hurt her more than the cold wind. Kale noticed her silence. You're thinking too much, he said. Serena shook her head. I'm thinking exactly enough. Ryder is stronger than any frostborn I know. Kale gave a small smile. Good. Then this won't be boring. Serena stopped walking and grabbed his arm. This is not a game. If you lose, the peace ends. Everything we tried to build will fall apart. Kale looked at her. Really looked at her. I know. And that's why I won't lose. Inside the arena, ice pillars towered above them like frozen giants. The ground was slippery, uneven, and deadly. Frostborn elders filled the upper seats. Warriors lined the edges. Ryder stood in the center, clad in heavy ice armor that glowed with ancient power. His white eyes looked colder than ever. When Kale entered, the entire arena fell silent. Ryder raised his spear. Human. Step forward and face your end. Kale stepped into the center, rolling his shoulders unfazed. I'm right here. The duel began with a blast of wind so strong it almost pushed Kale off his feet. Ryder moved first, fast, almost too fast. His spear slashed at Kale with icy trails of light. Kale dodged, ducked, and rolled, but the cold burned every time Ryder's power passed near him. Ryder struck again. Kale barely blocked it with a frozen shard he grabbed from the ground. The force sent him sliding backward. Frostborn gasped. Serena gripped the railing, her heart pounding. Ryder's voice echoed across the arena. Is this the champion of humanity? This weak creature? Kale spit blood onto the ice. Come closer and find out. Ryder attacked with fury. His spear crashed down, shattering pillars and sending waves of cold across the arena. Kale used every ounce of speed and instinct to stay alive. But Ryder was stronger, faster, born for this fight. Still, Kale did not fall. He countered with punches, kicks, broken shards, anything he could find. Each blow shook Ryder, surprising the Frostborn champion. Kale was not fighting like a soldier. He was fighting like a survivor. Raw, relentless, unstoppable. Serena felt something in the crowd shift. Frostborn who once doubted were now watching Kale with awe. Even the elders leaned forward, whispering. They had never seen a human stand against a Frostborn champion this long. But Ryder was far from finished. He slammed his spear into the ground. A shockwave of ice erupted, throwing Kale across the arena. Kale hit the ground hard, sliding until he smashed into a pillar. Serena gasped, her hands covering her mouth. Kale didn't move. Ryder lifted his spear high. This is the end, human. Frostborn guards bowed their heads. The crowd held its breath. Serena whispered, Kale, please get up. Then Kale's hand twitched. He pushed himself to his knees, blood dripping down his face. He stood slowly, painfully, but with fire in his eyes. Ryder stared in disbelief. Why do you rise? You have already lost. Kale wiped the blood from his lip. Because I'm not fighting for myself. His eyes lifted to Serena. I'm fighting for her. And I'm not done. The arena erupted in shouts, some in fear, some in amazement. Ryder roared in anger, ready to unleash everything he had. Serena's heart stopped. The real battle was about to begin. Ryder charged like a living avalanche, ice cracking under every step. His spear glowed brighter, gathering ancient Frostborn power. Kale barely had time to react. He ducked under the first strike, rolled away from the second, and blocked the third with his forearm. The impact felt like being hit by a falling mountain. Serena screamed his name, but her voice was swallowed by the cold wind. Kale staggered backward. His breath came in sharp gasps. Frost covered part of his arm, spreading quickly up toward his shoulder. Ryder smirked. Your body cannot survive my power. Stop fighting, human. Kale clenched his jaw. Not happening. Ryder swung again, but this time Kale caught the spear with both hands. The impact shook the entire arena. Frost burned his palms, but he held on. The crowd gasped as Kale forced the spear down, muscles trembling, refusing to bow. Ryder pushed harder. You are nothing, Kale growled. Then why are you struggling? For the first time, frustration cracked through Ryder's cold mask. He kicked Kale away and raised his hand. A swirling storm formed above his palm. Ancient Frostborn energy that only champions could summon. Serena's eyes widened in horror. No, he's using forbidden ice. The elders stood shouting warnings, but Ryder ignored them. The ice storm grew larger and hotter, glowing bright white. If he released it, Kale wouldn't just lose, he would die instantly. Serena ran toward the arena floor, but guards held her back. Princess, you cannot interfere. She struggled, screaming. He will kill him. Let me go. Kale forced himself up again, barely breathing. He looked at Serena, and for a split second, the world slowed. Her fear, her tears, her voice, they hit him harder than any weapon. He wasn't fighting for a treaty anymore. He was fighting for her. Ryder hurled the massive blast of forbidden ice. The crowd gasped. Frostborn shielded their eyes. The elders screamed for the duel to stop. Kale didn't run. He sprinted straight into the attack. The ice exploded around him, blasting the arena in a blinding flash. Frost shards rained like deadly knives. A cold shockwave rippled through the valley. Serena fell to her knees, tears freezing on her cheeks. Silence swallowed the world. Smoke and frost covered the battlefield. Ryder lowered his hand, confident, calm, certain of victory. But then, a shadow moved inside the smoke. Serena's eyes widened. Kale. The frost cleared slowly, and Kale stepped forward. He was burned, bleeding, shaking, but alive. Alive. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Frostborn whispered, stunned. Ryder took a step back, true fear flickering in his eyes. Kale's voice was hoarse but steady. That all you got? Ryder roared and charged, swinging with all his strength. Kale ducked, blocked, and countered. Every hit Kale delivered cracked Ryder's armor. Every punch had the force of a man who refused to die. Ryder tried to blast him with more ice, but his power flickered. He had used too much. Kale didn't stop. He grabbed Ryder's spear, snapped it in half, and threw the broken piece aside. The arena went silent. Ryder stared at Kale with disbelief. No human should have this strength. Kale stepped closer, breathing hard. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to fall. He struck Ryder with one final punch, straight to the chest. Ryder hit the ice floor with a crash that echoed through the entire arena. His armor shattered. His power faded. His eyes closed. The Frostborn champion was defeated. Serena ran into the arena before anyone could stop her. She dropped to her knees beside Kale, cupping his face with trembling hands. Kale, look at me. He smiled weakly. Told you I wouldn't lose. Serena's eyes filled with tears, warm tears, human tears. She didn't care who was watching. She pulled him into her arms, holding him tightly. Around them, the Frostborn people bowed their heads. For the first time in centuries, a human had earned their respect. But far above the arena, hidden in the storm clouds, someone else watched the duel. Someone far more dangerous than Ryder. And he whispered, "Now their real suffering begins." The winds quieted as the last echoes of battle drifted across the blasted valley. Smoke curled upward like fading spirits. And the alien sun cast long shadows across the ground where warriors from two worlds had clashed. The princess stood frozen, her breath shallow, her heartbeat loud in her ears. In the midst of the devastation, the human she had married, her unlikely companion, her symbol of peace, remained standing. His figure was battered, bloodied, and breathing hard, yet unbroken. Around him lay the evidence of what he had done, what he had become in the heat of survival. She had wed him for peace, for stability, for diplomacy. Never had she expected this. Never had she imagined he would fight like this, like something primal, something ancient, something that carried the fury of a forgotten war god. Her steps were slow as she approached him, as if afraid that coming too near would shatter the moment. His eyes found hers through streaks of dust and dried blood. And despite everything, the first thing he did was smile. It was small, tired, but real. It cut straight into her heart. He had fought not for glory, not for dominance, but for her. Behind them, the Imperial ships descended with a thunderous hum, their engines scattering the smoke. Royal guards swept out in perfect formation, forming a metallic wall around the Imperial landing zone. Moments later, her father, the Emperor, stepped down from the carrier platform. His golden armor reflected the burning horizon, but his expression held something rare. Awe. He walked past injured soldiers, past stunned commanders, and stopped only when he stood before the human. For a long moment, the Emperor said nothing. He simply studied the young warrior, who had done what even elite galactic legions had failed to accomplish. Finally, in a low voice that carried across the field, he asked, "Why did you fight like this?" The human wiped his brow with a shaking hand. His ribs ached, his legs trembled, and every muscle begged for rest. But he met the Emperor's gaze without flinching. "Because she is my wife," he said. "Because peace isn't given. It's protected." The valley seemed to hold its breath. To the princess, the words slammed into her chest with the force of an explosion. This man who came from a quiet planet, who had stepped into her world with uncertainty and humility, had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. Courage without cruelty. Strength without conquest. Love without conditions. She felt heat rise behind her eyes. Not tears of sorrow. Tears of realization. She walked the last few steps toward him, ignoring protocol, tradition, and every ancient rule of royal conduct. She reached his side and took his hand openly in front of thousands of soldiers. No royal had ever done such a thing in public. The Emperor's eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing. The guards murmured. The commanders stiffened. The entire empire seemed to hold its breath at this simple gesture of unity. The princess raised her chin and spoke loudly enough for her voice to carry across the battlefield. "From this day forward," she declared, "our strength is shared. No enemy will face us alone. He stands with me, and I stand with him." The crowd shifted, uncertain at first. But then the soldiers, those who had witnessed the human's ferocity and honor firsthand, fell to one knee. Their armor clattered against the stone ground in a rolling wave. One by one, the rest followed. The Emperor exhaled slowly. He wasn't accustomed to being outshone, yet he understood what he was witnessing. The birth of something new, something powerful, something ancient civilizations had tried and failed to achieve. An alliance not of politics, but of devotion. The human squeezed the princess's hand gently. He whispered, barely audible, "I didn't mean to scare you." She turned to him with a soft smile. "You didn't," she whispered back. "You showed me who you really are." Together they stepped forward, standing at the center of a battlefield that would be remembered for ages. The moment was not about war. It was about unity forged under fire. The emperor finally spoke again, projecting his voice with imperial command. "Let it be known throughout the empire," he proclaimed, "that today marks the end of this war. Peace has been secured through honor and courage, and through the bond of my daughter and her chosen partner." Cheers erupted from the soldiers. Relief washed over the commanders. The ground itself seemed to hum with renewed life. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting shimmering gold across the valley, the princess leaned her head lightly against the human's shoulder. He exhaled, exhausted but peaceful, knowing the fight was over. "You're not a war god," she murmured. "You're something better." He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" She smiled softly. "A human who fights for love, not power." And under that alien sky, as two worlds silently vowed to rebuild together, their hands remained intertwined, an unbreakable oath that echoed far beyond the stars.